Hello, and welcome to the Fill Her Cup podcast, where you leave with your glass fuller than it was when you came. I am your host, Tamia Lester, and welcome to episode 3, y'all. I am so excited. I have been getting such great feedback from the podcast about the podcast. The girls are loving it. The girls are feeling filled. So I'm very happy about that. I don't even know necessarily what I want to even call this episode today. So I don't have a title to give y'all right now. Don't have a title to give you guys right now. I totally dropped my little Stanley cup, but that's okay. So this episode, I'm going to kind of think about it as like a journal entry, diary entry, whichever you want to call it. But this has been running through my mind. I had a bit of a rough week, honestly. So we can take this as a good FaceTime call, as it's supposed to feel like, between me and you. And I'm just telling you the things that have kind of been on my mind. And this is in regard to knowing exactly who you are despite what externally your life looks like. So this is something that we talk about often, or you probably hear me talk about often. But because I talk about it doesn't mean I don't struggle with it. And to be very honest, I have not been feeling my best. And I definitely went through a phase not too long ago, to be surprised, like in the making of this podcast, just feeling like, am I truly fit? Or am I truly that girl to be on a podcast talking to other women, pouring into other women positivity and confidence and all these things? Because sometimes I struggled with it myself. And that's when God told me, yes. Because even while you're walking through the things and you're talking the things out, you may be helping another young lady or anyone get through their season of doubt or lack of confidence or motivation. So we're going to just go with the flow today. I hope that you're comfortable with that. If you are, stay here to have, meet me at the well and have your cup overflow. But basically lately, I have just been in a funk a bit, and I'm not even going to call it that because it's been about a week. Like, I'm not even going to let that sit in my system. But sometimes I just have these feelings of, am I really what I appear to be? Is that truly who I am? Who y'all see on Instagram? What I show? Is that really me? And we know that to be imposter syndrome. And if you don't know what imposter syndrome is when you disassociate yourself or you do not feel connected to your actual accomplishments or what people say you are. So me personally, a lot of people, how can I put this? Lift me up in the mother that I am. A lot of people come to me for advice about motherhood or just as a safe space for people to talk to give advice. And a lot of the times, the devil likes to make me feel like, oh, little do they know you struggle with this, or little do they know this is how your day went, or little do they know you laid in bed all day today. Like, you're not really always productive. And I know somebody's probably listening to this and be like, Tamia, that's okay. Like, nobody called you perfect. But when I was in therapy about 4 years ago, we identified the voice in my head. And I think it is so important to identify the voice in your head, whose voice it is. Is it your voice? Where did it come from? So that you can combat your negative self-talk. I always use myself as an example because for this episode, nobody else is here, right? But with my therapist, I had these voices in my head of, you're not good enough. That's not really who you are. You need to do better. What's next? What are you doing now? And we named that voice, and that voice is called the supervisor. And why I named her the supervisor is because it feels like, that manager at your job that micromanages. I micromanage myself. And all I could think of was a supervisor that is not giving constructive criticism, because there's a difference. Your supervisor, your manager is supposed to criticize you in a constructive way, in a way that is supposed to grow you. But the voice in my head was more like the manager that seems like they are just trying to beat you down. No matter how hard you try, nothing is good enough. You don't get the promotion. You don't get the accolades or the recognition that you deserve. That is how, most of the time, my natural voice speaks to me. And I just can feel it already that all of us at the well right now, waiting to get our cups filled, have felt that way or feel that way or struggle with that. And I think a lot of it comes from wanting to achieve things, which is completely okay. Like, that's completely fine. But there needs to be a healthy alignment with that. Like it doesn't always have to be push yourself to the limit, be 100 with yourself. You can be 100 with yourself and be kind to yourself. That is very real. I don't even know if I'm making sense right now. I just said I'm going to get on here, we're going to talk, and it's going to be like a journal entry. But for the past week, I have not, like the supervisor's been talking as opposed to the new voice that I've implanted in my head. So let me break that down. When the supervisor speaks, I have built another voice that supports me in my head that basically tells the supervisor to F off. So when I start to feel like, okay, Tamia, like, yeah, you came up with your podcast, but your reels are not good enough. You're not pushing it hard enough. My new voice, and I haven't named her yet. I think it's just me. My new voice is me. Like, it's the truth. It's who I really am. It's how I should be talking to myself. So I don't think it needs a name or title. It's myself. But I will go ahead and say it's okay because podcasting is new to you. This is new territory. You do not need to be on the mark, on point. All of the production does not need to be top tier, CBS News status on putting out stuff. Like, yes, you want high quality. Yes, you want to put out your best, but it does not need to be perfect. So I have just reinforced the negative self-talk, the negative criticism that's not going to get me anywhere with positive words. And there are many occasions outside of with the podcast that I felt like this. I remember being in coaching with my coach too. And she's the founder of Dope Affiliates. So if you ever need another safe space, definitely head over to Two's space, which is the Dope Affiliates. And she's absolutely amazing. She coaches one-on-one, but she has a group of girls that is just top tier and help me a lot. So we don't gatekeep over here. So I remember speaking with Two, and when she first started coaching me, a lot of my struggles were, how can I put this? Do I fit in? Am I still the same Tamia that fit in with my friends in college and with my friends in high school? And that's because my life has changed so much. After college, going out of college, not even after college, going out of college, I was becoming a mother. So a lot of my friends got to go on and get their masters, and now they've graduated with their masters and, get their jobs and their career fields. Like my girls are killing it. And I kind of was just a stay-at-home mom raising a mare, and my husband went to the Navy. I was in nursing school, but to me, because I wasn't keeping up with my friends, I felt like I was not doing anything. And that's when I started to need therapy because it felt like I was a failure. And to be completely transparent, it felt like I went ahead and I got pregnant and now I can't be successful. I don't think I've ever said that out loud. I don't even think I noticed that is what I was feeling because I love being a mother. I love the idea of having a baby. When I got pregnant, I've always wanted to be a mom. What is also true, so the and in that is I have always been very driven towards my success independently. And what happened was out of college, graduating with a 4.0 GPA, I did fine. I didn't have any struggles. I could have went on and did what I wanted to do. I had my plan. I took on a role that became devoted completely full time to other people. Amir, and 3 months after Amir was born, Tuffy became my husband. So my life didn't look like my friends. So I didn't really know how to track my milestones. So they kind of just felt like nothing was happening. And then that supervisor voice started coming in. And so I enrolled in nursing school, was very hard on myself in nursing school because I was just like, I need to get a job that gives me my retirement and does all these things, trying to keep up with other people and not just remembering that like God has called me to be myself and God has called me to my own story and my own path. So it doesn't need to look like everybody else. And it simply doesn't make sense. Like, how could I compare myself to the livelihoods of my lovely sisters and friends who are not doing the same thing I'm doing? They don't have kids. They aren't married. So it just didn't add up, right? So my truth voice needed to tell myself who I truly am. Needed to tell myself, like, Tamia, it's not even in comparison. You are doing amazing at your own right, and they are doing amazing at their own right. As this flows, and I'm piecing this together, y'all, I'm really piecing this together and just talking from the heart, but I really struggled with my identity. And I think that sometimes due to how our life looks externally, it starts to tamper with who we know we are in our identity at our core. So my situations just seem to be like my life starting to move at a very fast pace, me taking on a lot of roles that I had no training, no understanding in, and then having a bunch of trailblazing friends who got to jump into their loves that didn't look like babies or marriage. It looked like their career, and they got to establish themselves. And while I was going through what God has called me to do, I was being so hard on myself, and the supervisor was having a field day in my brain of like, look at you. You went to college, you spent all that money, you got all these loans, and now what? And I truly went into a depression. I had postpartum depression, but I lost who I am. I lost who God has called me to be. I grew up so certain. Like, I was that little girl of like, I love dancing. I know I can dance. I know I want to take care of people. I know. I was so certain that God called me to help people. And I think I was still functioning in that, but I guess it just didn't look like how I anticipated it to. So it just kind of felt like you dropped the ball. And it's such a touchy topic for me because I don't feel like having a child and getting pregnant was a failure in a sense. It just was different now that I look back. And even when you asked me then, like, do I feel like I was failing? No, I feel like I made great achievements. I feel like I overcame a lot. I felt so powerful having a mare. But I think when it even came to like being a wife, for a very long time, like people didn't know I was married. I didn't post my wedding day outwardly. I didn't do a lot of things, and it just makes me wonder. Like, I've been pondering and thinking about the seasons in my life where I've had absolutely wonderful experiences and moments, but because I wasn't aligned with my core, who I was at the core, and who God has truly called me to be, I don't want to say hit it, because if anybody asked me, like I was wearing a ring and things like that, like I wouldn't say, oh no, I'm not married. But as open and transparent as I was, I think you all can agree that a lot of people did not know I was married. And I think that's because I just wasn't sure who I was in that season. I knew I wanted to marry my husband. I love my husband. I knew I wanted a family. Like, if we're even speaking in a general sense, before I knew who my husband was going to be, who a mayor was going to be, whether I was going to have a son or a daughter, I knew I wanted my dynamic to be a family household. I did not want a one-parent household. I wanted a two-parent household. So things were happening in ways that I've prayed for. But when they happened, I think I was not connecting myself to that is who you really are. You really are married. I had to catch up with myself. That's a real thing. Like, I had to catch up with myself. So I just wanted to share a couple of these things because it doesn't have to look like this for you. For me, it looked like you're married now. Yeah, you're really a wife. You're really a mom. Those are really hard things to do at this age. You are 21, 22 years old, and you're doing that. That's scary. And it's great and it's amazing. And yeah, you are in nursing school and you are working towards your career. You are a certified life coach. That is sufficient. That is good enough. It is not you falling on these things because you messed up with something else. This is who you're supposed to be. Hop in. Join for the ride. It's not what you may have planned. It probably happened in a time span that you did not expect, but it's yours. And I think I was not accepting those things as mine until recently. And then it trickled into, yeah, you are the girl that coaches women. You are the girl that helps somebody, get out of a hard relationship and feel confident and get that apartment they wanted and stick to their goals. Like, yeah, that's you. That is truly you. Or last week when it was falling off, or you're not taking care of yourself, you're not working out enough, and that supervisor voice started to get into my head. I had to tell myself, like, you just started a new podcast, you're coaching 4+ women a week and working full time. You will figure your schedule out. You're getting a new teaching certification in a new state. You will figure it out. It's okay. It's okay if you take a break for a week. It was Memorial Day weekend, and I was supposed to post this podcast, and I was literally like, look at you falling off already. That's how I started to talk to myself. And my voice, my true voice, my God-given voice said, no, you just need a break because, girl, you've been working hard. You have been planting your seeds and you've been working hard. Please do not think that you are not who you say you are because you need a break for a weekend. Please do not think that you are not who God says you are because you're going through a rough time, because you're going through a breakup, because something's changing in your life, because you didn't get the job or you didn't get the grade you wanted. You're still that same girl. You still have that same calling of success and promise on your life. Our situations do not make who we are. I have made mistakes. I have made decisions, honestly, that have hovered over my head for 3+ years and made me feel like I was undeserving of the family and the things that I have. And the things were not even that big. It's just that I have this supervisor voice in my head that just made me feel like, did I mess up? Did I do something wrong? And then you think yourself into a deep hole. Or because of the things I was seeing in my life, like financial struggles, just in my relationship at a point. What else has happened? Shoot, like not being able to pay rent some months. I was thinking, like, you really who these girls think you are? You a facade? Are you a fraud? I remember when I first got my coaching certification, y'all. And because at that point my marriage was in shambles, I felt like I was struggling as a mom. I could barely get up and function in my brain to take care of myself because I was so depressed. I had to really sit there with myself and be like, you are qualified. Like in the mirror, I had to write with dry erase marker, you are qualified, because everything around me just didn't look like I was fit to speak to another woman about being confident and taking care of herself. Like everything just didn't look like I should have been the one doing that. But in that season, I picked a dry erase marker and I wrote on my mirror every day what I needed to believe was truth about myself because God said so. Because that is who I say I am because God said so. And at first, you don't have to believe everything. You don't have to believe everything about it, but it's who God said you are. So it's not a lie. So this is not even just for me. I mean, for you. It's for me as well, because I need to get out of my own head and just remember who God said I am. Because if not, then I'm just going to be so hard on myself, and that's just not fair. And I don't want you to do that as well. I don't want you to let go of the feelings you have when you're in a season of confidence. You know, when you're like, yeah, I'm going to get this done and I'm going to do this and I'm going to knock this off my list. And I was very productive this week. You know, those feelings that you have during those weeks and you feel good about yourself. You want to share with your friends. You want to post on your story. You want to take photos. That season, we need to live in that season more often. We need to remember what those feelings feel like. And it's most important when we get into those phases where things don't look all so good, but we need to hold on to who we know we are. Because if you hold on to who you know you are and who God has called you to be, I can promise you that you will get through those seasons much easier. You'll be able to look at it and just be like, okay, this is just a bad week. This is just a rough week. This is not my life. This is not changing who I am. I can get through this. These are just different things that you could tell yourself. Like, everything is not always going to be smooth sailing, but that doesn't change who I am. So this episode may have been a little brief, but I just had to come on and say, hey, you're that girl. And a rough week, some bad moods does not change that for you. God said you are who you are. Don't let the enemy tell you different. You've got this. Speak positivity into yourself. Pour positivity into yourself. Start even if you don't believe it yet. Eventually you will. Eventually it'll set in. If you speak positively into yourself, positive things will happen. If you pray about it, it'll come to pass. If you pray about it, have faith in it, believe it, and truly give it to God, it will come to pass. Don't be so hard on yourself. Do not be so hard on yourself. The world is hard enough. Your situation might be hard enough. You do not need to add to that. You should be the nicest in your circle to yourself. You should be the main person saying, I'm trying my best. I'm doing my best. I got up today. I did what I could. I crossed out what I could from my to-do list. It's okay if the whole list is not crossed off. God willing, you have tomorrow. Start with your priorities. Start with the things that don't have flexibility to be pushed till tomorrow, so you get those things knocked off and you don't feel bad about it. If you need help with that, girl, write me. I'm a coach. We can work on it. We can create a schedule. We can create a routine. But I love you so much. And I just want you to be nice to yourself. And I want you to know that it's okay. It's okay not to be okay. But what's important is that we do not forget who we are, because that is what's going to push us through and give us a why and give us a reason. And before I go, I want to give you something that's helped me a lot, that I share a lot with my coaching clients, and that is true versus truth. It is a concept that helps me so much. So true is your perception of something. Truth is what it actually is. True can be shifted, morphed, molded, changed. Truth cannot. Truth stands, it is what it is, and it cannot be shifted. So, example, a true could be, you think that the sky is turquoise blue just because of how it looks. I don't know, maybe the time of day or whatever the case may be. But the truth is, the sky is blue. It is sky blue specifically. It is not turquoise blue. It is not the color that Tamia thinks it is. It is just blue. That cannot be changed, right? Another example of true versus truth is, true to you could be, your boyfriend didn't get you flowers for Valentine's Day because he didn't think of it. He didn't care enough. He didn't prioritize it. That is your perception of it. He wasn't thinking about me. He didn't get me the flowers. I asked for flowers. I don't have them, meaning he did not prioritize it. Truth could be, he wasn't feeling well when he got off of work. He picked up a card. He got into Walmart or Trader Joe's or whatever, and the flowers that you asked for were not there, or all of the flowers were sold out. So he came home with chocolates and a card and some tickets to something nice, or just took you to dinner, but the flowers were missing for a certain reason. Truth is, it wasn't that he didn't care. Your perception is valid. It is your feelings, but we have to run with the truth. Because if you ran with the truth about why your boyfriend didn't come home with the flowers, then you'd feel better that it wasn't that he didn't care. It was just circumstances happened that he wasn't able to pick up the tulips. But he did everything else, right? Like, he still showed up for you. So what I want you to do with this, in range of your positivity and remembering who you are and being kind to yourself and positive self-talk, is, true is that, I'm going to use my situation. My true is that last weekend, I felt lazy and I felt that I was falling behind because I didn't show up to post my podcast last weekend. So I felt like I was falling off. Truth is, that is not the case. I am here now. I was not falling off. I set up everything for me to be here today. I just needed rest. And what I have to run with is the truth. I just needed rest. I needed a break so I could be my best. All of my other perception can go out the window, and I can now give myself grace. Use true versus truth. It has saved my marriage. It has saved friendships. It saves how I treat myself. Because if you just go with what the truth is, what can't be changed, what it is for sure, point blank period, then there's no way to twist it around into what you thought and what you think and all this other stuff that can honestly dig a hole of crazy emotions for you, right? So I'm going to pray us out, because I just want us all to walk in our truth. I want us all to walk in our purpose. So bow your heads. God, I thank you for every single individual, lady, female, or male, that has listened to my podcast this afternoon, this evening, or this morning. I pray that they know that you have called them to be nothing short of amazing. I pray that they know that you stand and walk with them through every single experience in their life, that you never leave their side, that you never forsake them, God. I pray that they know that you chose every strand and counted every strand of hair on their head, and that they have a purpose, that they have a calling, and that no matter what the enemy tries to put in their way as an obstacle, your truth, your promise will come to pass. So with that, I pray that they do not let go of their dreams because of how their life looks like on the outside. I pray that they do not let go of what belongs to them because of how they feel about themselves. I pray that they continue to walk and continue to get through the fire and continue to stay devoted just off their faith, that they know that you have made a promise to them that they will be absolutely amazing and successful in their lives. I pray that they know that because they are a child of God, they are beautifully and wonderfully made, and that they can do anything that they put their minds to. So I hope that they have promise on their hearts, and that this podcast has made them feel as though, or made them aware that they need to be nicer to themselves and give themselves more grace so that they can go out and be all that you call them to be. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Thank you for meeting me at the well, ladies. Meet me here next Sunday. You can watch my podcast on YouTube, or you can tune in and listen here on Spotify or Apple Podcast, wherever you're tuning in from. I appreciate you. I love pouring into you, and I hope you have a wonderful week. See you at the well next week. Bye.